So I'm looking on my family tree on the last day I can look at documents. Unless I subscribe again. And I probably will. But I'm just not doing it at the moment. So, this is my third great grandfather, Samuel Nicol. We don't know when he was born. We also don't know who he married, although his wife's name was Mary. I don't know what her maiden name is. And I'm going to demonstrate how it's easy to make a mistake. So, what I want to say is, researching my father's family in Halifax is very, very difficult because there's a tradition in his family of naming children after existing relatives and particularly after parents. So, what you find is that you've got the family named Nicol and they start to have children so they've got Henry Nicol here, look, had 6 children. He had a son named Samuel, but he died before he was able to get married while he was still very young. So and then he had a brother named Samuel as well. So what happens is, I can't remember how many children he had just off the top of my head now. But let's say, for example, that he had 5 children who all survived to adulthood. 5 boys who all survived to adulthood and they got married and they started having children. So they all start having children at roughly around the same point in time. And so then there's a lot of children named Samuel and Mary being born around Halifax. Samuel and Mary Nicol. And it's hard to untangle these threads and find out who's who. So, I'm going to sneeze in a minute. No, I'm not. It's alright. I've just finished a 24-hour dry fast, which I've never done before. So I'm feeling a bit peculiar. I haven't even started eating yet. I'm going to start eating when I finish this live stream, but I wanted to fast from food for 27 hours because I know I get into ketosis after 27 hours. Water fasting, but you get into ketosis quicker if you're dry fasting. And I decided to try dry fasting because I'd missed out 2 weeks of fasting. And then the third week, I wasn't able to fast as much as I usually do. And so I wanted to make up for it, but I didn't want to be doing 3-day fasts and stuff, with it being Christmas. So I decided to do a dry fast, which gets you into ketosis much quicker. Because you don't have water, your body has to start burning fat. When it burns fat, it creates water called metabolic water. So that gets you into ketosis faster. So I'm just a bit hysterical because about 2 o'clock, I've drunk half a litre of water since 2 o'clock. And that's all that I've drunk. The only thing that I've consumed since 2 o'clock yesterday. So I must say it was very intense, but it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be. I kept thinking, I had the water, at the side of me all the time, because I was worried if I started feeling faint or something. So, but my body's used to switching between and glucose burning and fat burning, getting into ketosis. So, you're not supposed to try dry fasting unless you've done water fasting. So, but already after 12 hours, I felt like I'd been fasting about 36 hours on a water fast. I can tell my hair goes really straight. It's very peculiar. So my hair was really straight after 12 hours. And then, when I got up today, my hair was really straight. And as soon as I drank water, it went frizzy. So I don't know how to explain that, but that's what happens. When I've been doing a water fast for 3 days, my hair goes really straight. I don't know what the explanation is, but it does happen. So yeah. So Samuel was born in Ovenden, which is a district of Halifax. This is a mistake, this marriage. Someone else has put this marriage certificate in. But according to the marriage certificate, he got married in 1800, but Henry wasn't born until 1815. So I find it quite hard to believe. I find it quite hard to believe that they went 15 years without having any children, without having any surviving children at all. And then they suddenly had a lot of children who survived. And the other thing is as well, here's the certificate. Well, it's not a certificate, it's the record of marriage. So it's not the certificate, it's just how it was in the book. Let me find him. Here he is. Yeah, Samuel Nicol of Southaram. So as far as I know, Samuel never lived there. He lived in Ovenden and the centre of Halifax and Midgley. But obviously there were Nichols living there. But anyway, so he married Mary, you see. This is why they think it's the same person. But it isn't. Where's his occupation? It's on here somewhere. Parish of... I can't even read that. Oh! Oh, that's it. Samuel Nicol of Southaram, of this parish, mason. He's a stonemason. Samuel Nicol was a labourer when Henry was born, and then later on in his life he was a wire temperer. And then his son Samuel, Henry's brother, became a wire puller, or wire drawer, I think it was called. So you can tell also by family trades. Not that people couldn't choose a different path like Henry did, for example. Anyway, I'm looking on Google Maps now. I've looked at this already. So this is Halifax here. This is Ovenden. Centre of Halifax is down here. So, and this here is really why I'm looking at this map. That's Mixenden there. So the reason I've been looking at this is because Florence Burnley Taylor was born in Mixenden. And the reason I know that is because in the 1881 census, when she's living with her mother at the age of 2 years old, in a boarding house in Wakefield, also with Henry Nicol living there. So Mary Ann Nicol, or Mary Ann Taylor as she was then, is listed as the head of the household. So it was a lodging house, not a boarding house. The difference is that lodging houses don't provide food. So she was a lodging housekeeper. She was living there in this lodging house with lodgers, one of whom was Henry Nicol, whose occupation was pipe maker, and relationship to the head of the household was father. So anyway, this is her daughter then, who was living there at 2 years old, who was only called Taylor then, Florence Taylor. Florence's father died before she was even born, and he died in Halifax. That's the registration district anyway, which includes Mixenden. So this son, Norman William, 1906 to 1907, that's him who's buried with Mary Ann, in the grave with Mary Ann. They both died in 1907. There they are. That's where he was living then, when he died, Jackson Street, Brooklyn, Wellington. Can look at that better in a minute. And there's Florence's gravestone, which isn't as easy to read as... and that's where she was buried. I don't know how to pronounce that first word. Lower Hutt City, Wellington, New Zealand. It really surprised me. It really surprised me when I started researching my family history, how much people moved around. I just want to also mention this spelling of nickel with two L's. And that's how it's spelled in Halifax. So Samuel Nicol, Henry's brother, when he was living in Halifax, spelled his name with two L's. And when he was living in Wakefield, he spelled it with one L. But the record of Henry's baptism at St Mary's Ludden, it's spelt with one L. In Sorby Bridge, where there's a lot of people named Nicol in the graveyard, and were living. If you're looking on Ancestry for their records, it was spelt with two L's there as well. So people were a bit more flexible with spelling back then. Anyway, this is a new record to Ancestry that I found today. This is my mother's family. It's been easier to, not exactly easier to research, but easier to picture the places where my father's family were, because they're all around places that I know. Whereas my mother's family, well, not the Smales actually, they're from Stanley in Wakefield. But the Bushells, that's her mother's family, were moving around all over. So this is one of the Bushell ancestors, so this is her mother's. My grandmother's, maternal grandmother's ancestors. I found it somewhere. Oh yeah, here we are. Can I? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. I'm looking on the wrong page now. I was trying to zoom in. Yeah, so anyway, it tells you the details here. Susanna Sadler, female, marriage. Marriage date, 4th of June, 1821. St Martin at Oak, Norfolk, and the spouse is James Bushell. They weren't fussy about spellings there. So James Bushell and Susanna Sadler. I can't even remember where they are in my family tree. Surely they're not the... they must be the grandparents of Victor Bushell. Because he was born in 1864. So it's quite unlikely that they're the parents. So you can see here, Isaac, by this cross here, and this cross, and there it says Mark. And then here for one of the witnesses, a cross and a mark. So 3 of the 4 people at this wedding, including the bride and groom, were all illiterate. And James something that I can't read easily. He's the only one who can write. That was the same at the marriage of Thomas Hudson Nicol and Rebecca Owen. Thomas could read and write. but Rebecca couldn't. My great-grandmother. My dad told me that already before I started researching my family tree, because my dad was born in 1922. Well, Thomas Hudson Nicholl died in 1921. But Rebecca didn't die until 1946, so my dad was 23 when she died, so he knew her pretty well, and he spoke very highly of her. And I would say that he had more positive regard for her, I think. I heard him speak anyway with more positive regard. I mean, he spoke with positive regard of his parents, but the way that he spoke about his grandmother was a bit more. And that she gave him very good advice. And what he said about her was she couldn't read or write, but she was a real lady. And he said that she continued to wear Victorian clothing up to when she died in 1946. And his Aunt Florrie she didn't get married until after her mother died, because her mother was elderly and frail, and my great Aunt Florrie stayed at home to look after her. So they were both living in a house in Flintshire at the time when my great grandmother died. And I used to go to this house with my dad to visit my great Aunt Florrie there. When my mum went to work, he'd often take me up there to visit her. So I was quite excited when I realised that, because I didn't know. I only found out about it when I looked at the 1939 register and found that they were both living together in this house in Flintshire that I used to visit. It's just off Batley Road, which leads to Kirkham Gate. So my great Aunt Florrie stayed at home. She looked after both her parents when they were ill. I think that's why she didn't get married when she was younger. And then as soon as her mother died, she got married. That was to a man who was ill as well, so she could look after him, because she couldn't live with him unless they were married. So she really was a very kind person, and she was always looking after people. And my dad said that she looked after him when he was a kid as well. I was going to look at something else, but I can't remember what now. Have I already saved this to my tree? I can't remember. I think I didn't, but because I only found it today, you say. Finding tree. This is what we need to do. Third great grandmother. So why? Look, there's a potential mother for her there. This is how you find out. Then you have to check. But I must say that most of the hints it gives me now are actually wrong. This picture of a tree there, somebody else has put that on. You can put this tree on, like I can put this tree on Susanna Sadler. It means it's a direct ancestor. So when you look at your tree, it's easy to see who your direct ancestors are. But I know who they are anyway, so I'm not bothered. Let me look at my tree again. Because I was going to look at... Yeah, so this is Henry Nicholl and Mary Hudson here, my second great-grandparents. But the thing is, you see, Mary Hudson came from quite a wealthy family going back. So there's more records of them. And actually, it's her ancestry that I've been able to trace back further than anyone else's. So there, that's her father. Oops, going round all over the place. Shall I zoom in a bit? I think I will. How long's this video been going now? I haven't turned it off, have I? No, 20 minutes, okay. This is my last day of being able to look at records, you see, although I can still look at my tree. I know I've said that already. How do I zoom in? Because my mouse don't work, you see, very well because it's an old laptop. There we are. So let me see. I think it's going up the female line here. I can go back further. Oh, maybe it isn't there. Oh, yeah, this is it. I remember now. Because Gillett Sharp was a very wealthy man. Right. So, it is going up the female line a bit. Jessie Hudson, Elizabeth Sharp. It's got to be Gillett Sharp, that surely. Yeah, there it is. My 5th great-grandfather. That's his gravestone there. It's in the parish church in Keighley. Fantastic records they kept in Keighley. That's another reason. Oops, what am I doing? How did that happen? I didn't... Oh no, now look at that. It's taking me right back to the beginning. That's my brother who died before I was born. Jeremy. How did I end up back down there anyway? Here we are. Yeah, they also had a Frenchman move into the flats here and he was called Jeremy as well. So what was that all about then? He didn't cause me any problems though, in fact. He was a very nice man. He moved back to France in the end. Where did he say he was from? Biarritz or something like that. He worked for Amazon. Yeah, Gillett Sharp, Abraham Sharp. Can't, There we are. So, Abraham Sharp and Hannah Jowett. James Jowett, 1700 to 1799. We don't know who the parents are. There's hints, though. We might be able to find out. But it's harder because they don't put so much detail on the records back then. It's harder to find out if they really are the people. But anyway, that's the earliest date I've got on my family tree, 1700. On my father's side, that is. Mainly going up the female line. Well, not in the earlier generations, the closest ones to me. Anyway, yeah, Gillett Sharp. Gillett is a Norman name. I don't even know how to pronounce it, to be honest. So, and it was never known in England before the Norman conquest. Gillett was very wealthy. And there is a Gillett Sharp who's in the news. In the newspaper, I mean. Not long after that, but it's not him because the newspaper report is from about 1843 or something like that. And that Gillett Sharp is an overseer of the poor in Keighley. I haven't been able to find what the family connection is between them, but I'm sure there is one. But he was giving a report to Parliament about the moral effects on young people of working long days in mills and not getting an adequate education. Not so much like whether they could read or write or not, but because he was saying they weren't getting this moral education. And as a result of that, there was an increase in children being born outside of marriage. So that was the report he was given to Parliament as overseer of the poor in Keighley. Right, where are we now? Rebecca's 4th great-grandparents. Look, so one of them is supposed to be married to Samuel Nicol. Those people shouldn't be there. Well, they should be there. I mean, yeah, that's right. They're not connected to each other. I'm looking at this wrong. It's this that threw me off. I need to get rid of that from my tree because it's wrong. Someone else has attached that to Samuel Nicol, you see. That's why it's appeared on my tree. I didn't put it there. I'm going to look at... Here we are. I'm going to try and find Alice Woodcock as well. Later, before my subscription runs out at midnight. I'm looking for my great-grandfather. It's got to be on here somewhere. There he is. I want to see if I can look at the marriage certificate. They got married at St John's Church in Wakefield. Marriage. Hang on a minute. Let's try life story. Can I not I want to look at the marriage certificate, but I could just search for it. That's what I'll do. It'll be easier. It's easier to search for him because he's got a more unusual name. In Sorby Bridge, there's a Rebecca Nicol buried there. Whose husband is also called Thomas, but it's not the same person. And she died in 1838. I've forgotten when she was born now. He was born 1855 or something like that. It'll be near enough. How long have I been on this now? 27 minutes. Yeah, this is what I want. No, that's his baptism. Baptised at Wakefield Parish Church, Wakefield All Saints, Yorkshire. That's the cathedral now. Became a cathedral in 1888. It's the same font I was baptised in. He was baptised, and also my grandfather, Fred Nicol, was baptised there. A lot of... I think all of Henry's children were baptised there, except Mary Ann, who was born in Keighley. My father wasn't baptised there because his mother was a Catholic and he was brought up a Catholic. I don't want to look at births and baptisms. I want marriages. There we are. Surely it must be this one. Yeah, it is. Here we are. So, April the 2nd, 1877. Iron moulder is his occupation. So in 1871 he was still a pipe maker. Father's name, Henry Nicol, pipe maker. William Owen, labourer. Rebecca was born in Fen Stanton, Huntingdonshire. It's just north of Cambridge. She lived in Nottinghamshire as well. The family moved up north because it was the industrial north, you see. It was where all the work was. And so people from the south just kept moving north Quite the opposite of what it is these days. So yeah, Thomas has signed his own name, Rebecca's signed with a cross, and the two witnesses have also signed with a cross. St John's area of Wakefield is named after the chantry of St John. There were 4 chantries coming into Wakefield. One was St Swithin's on the York Road. There was St John's on the Leeds and Bradford Road. And where it is now, where the site of where it was the St John's Chantry is not very far from where St John's Church is these days. But that's why that district's called St John's. Then there's St Mary the Virgin, which is on the Chantry Bridge and is still there. And then there's St Mary Magdalene, which is on the Horbury and Dewsbury roads, down at the bottom of Westgate is the location of that. And in fact, even though it was destroyed at the Reformation, the part of the road near the beck at the bottom of Westgate on old maps is called Magdalen Causeway or something like that. So, anyway, that's as much as my family tree I'm looking at, because we're already at 31 minutes on my thing. I would have done this earlier, but for 2 reasons. First of all, I was recovering from a dry fast, which actually I was more worried about it than I needed to be. I mean, Muslims do a dry fast every day for 30 days or 28 days or whatever it is, for up to 16 hours, but I did go to 24, and it said when you first start doing dry fast, you need to do it between 12 and 16 hours. But I ignored that because I've done so much fasting already. I was just more worried about it than I needed to be. I did feel thirsty, but not as thirsty as I thought I would. And I slept really well, and I didn't feel hungry at all, which is quite unusual. And I was worried then when I start drinking water, is it going to make me feel peculiar? But it didn't. I just feel normal. And I'm a bit thirsty, like I need to drink more. But I didn't want to overdo it. I'm going to start eating soon anyway. So I'm just going to read one chapter of my book now, and then I'm going to end my live stream. Chapter 27. The nature of moral goods, the 4th kind of goods, and the permissible manner of rejoicing in them. Oh yeah, the other reason was because I was cleaning my front windows, which is quite difficult, because they don't open fully. So it took me ages. And I waited for an Amazon delivery as well. So I was just about to start when it became 7 stops away or something like that. 1. Moral goods are the 4th kind in which the will can rejoice. By moral goods we mean the virtues and their habits insofar as they are moral. The exercise of any of the virtues, the practice of the works of mercy, the observance of God's law, political prudence. There's a footnote which says the subjective part of prudence by which one directs oneself in relation to the common good. Compare Aquinas, Summa Theologia 2, 48, 152. And all the practices of good manners. I need to blow my nose as well. Back in a minute, I can't talk. This has all come about through dry fasting. I've gone all peculiar. I'll use a piece of kitchen roll, that's the easiest thing. It hasn't made a lot of difference. 2. When possessed and practised, these moral goods perhaps merit more joy of will than any of the other 3 kinds spoken of, for either of 2 reasons, or for both together. A person can rejoice in these goods, that is, because of what they are in themselves, or because of the good effected through their instrumentality. We discovered that possessing the 3 kinds of good already mentioned deserves no joy of will. Of themselves, as we said, they neither have any good nor do they produce any in people, because they are so perishable and frail. Rather, as was also pointed out, they engender pain, sorrow, and affliction of spirit. Though they merit some joy for the second reason, that is, when people make use of them to go to God, this benefit is so uncertain that, as we commonly observe, a person contracts harm from them more than help. But even for the first reason, for what they are in themselves, moral goods merit some rejoicing by their possessor. For they bring along with them peace, tranquillity, a right and ordered use of reason, and actions resulting from mature deliberation. Humanly speaking, a person cannot have any noble possession in this life. 3. Because virtues in themselves merit love and esteem from a human viewpoint, and because of their nature and the good they humanly and temporally effect, a person can well rejoice in the practice and possession of them. Under this aspect, and for this reason, philosophers, wise men, and ancient rulers esteemed, praised, and endeavoured to acquire and practice them. The footnote here says, here he alludes to the Stoics such as Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius. Although they were pagans who only cared for these goods in a temporal way, because of the temporal, corporeal, and natural benefits they knew would result, they did not merely acquire these goods and the renown sought through them, but in addition to God, who loves every good, even in the barbarian and Gentile, and does not hinder any good work from being accomplished, as the wise man says, Wisdom 7:22, bestowed on them an increase of life, honour, dominion, and peace. He did this with the Romans because of their just laws. He subjected almost the entire world to them, paying them temporally for their commendable customs, since, because of their paganism, there's a footnote here, the source of these ideas may be St. Augustine, who developed them in the City of God 5:12 to 17:3. They were incapable of eternal reward. God so loves these moral goods that he was exceedingly pleased merely because Solomon asked for wisdom in order to instruct his people, govern them justly, and teach them worthwhile customs. And he told Solomon that he had given it to him, and moreover had granted him what had not been asked for, that is, riches and honour, in such a way that no king in the past or future was like him. 1 Kings 3:11-13. 4. Though Christians ought to rejoice in the moral goods and works they perform temporally, insofar as these are the cause of the temporal goods we spoke of, they ought not to stop there, as did the Gentiles, who with the eyes of their soul did not go beyond the things of this mortal life, since Christians have the light of faith, in which they hope for eternal life, and without which nothing from above or below will have any value. They ought to rejoice in the possession and exercise of these moral goods, only and chiefly in the second manner, that insofar as they perform these works for the love of God, these works procure eternal life for them. Thus, through their good custom and virtues, they should fix their eyes only on the service and honour of God. Without this aspect, the virtues are worth nothing in God's sight. This is evident in the Gospel. In the case of the 10 virgins, they had all preserved their virginity and done good works, yet because 5 of them had not rejoiced in the second way, by directing their joys in these works to God, but rather in the first, rejoicing vainly in the possessions of these works, they were rejected from heaven and left without any gratitude or reward from their spouse. Matthew 25:1-13. Also, many of the ancients possessed numerous virtues and engaged in good works, and many Christians have them today, and accomplish wonderful deeds by such works. But such works are of no profit for eternal life, because of failure to seek only the honour and glory of God. Christians, then, should rejoice not if they accomplish good works and abide by good customs, but if they do these things out of love for God alone, without any other motive. And those who work only for the service of God will receive a more elevated reward of glory. So those who work for other motives will suffer greater shame when they stand before God. 5. Well, I didn't know I was on there. For the sake of directing their joy in moral goods to God, Christians should keep in mind that the value of their good works, fasts, alms, penances, and so on, is not based on quantity and quality so much as on the love of God practised in them, and consequently that these works are of greater excellence in the measure both that the love of God by which they are performed is more pure and entire, and that self-interest diminishes with respect to pleasure, comfort, praise, and earthly or heavenly joy. They should not set their heart on the pleasure, comfort, savour, and other elements of self-interest these good works and practices usually entail, but recollect their joy in God, and desire to serve him through these means. And through purgation and darkness, as to this joy in moral goods, they should desire in secret that only God be pleased and joyful over their works. They should have no other interest or satisfaction than the honour and glory of God. Thus all the strength of their will in regard to these moral goods will be recollected in God. Yeah, I did look up the Spanish yesterday. So, it was a good translation, lad. Not an interpretation. I'm cold now, I've got my windows open. Because I cleaned them. A little bit. Because I'd cleaned them. But because there was also mould on the window frames a little bit. And I sprayed them with an anti-mould spray, which really smells strongly of bleach. So I've had the windows open for quite a long time now. And so it's pretty cold. I'm going to shut them in a minute. It's just been hell washing my windows. With all the dickheads that have had swarming outside while I was doing it. But anyway, that's it now. I can stay in. I've got no reason to go out. I've made sure I've got everything I need until well after Christmas. And because they always put me through something at this time of year, you see, it's very worrying for me, this period of time. Like the dickhead that I had on videos that I put on my Facebook page, I think. He attacked me with a fire extinguisher. And it was just hell. Hell, absolute hell living there. And they haven't done anything as bad as that since. Yet. But it's just a constant worry because they're always inventing ways to be evil to me. Like fake priests, for example. So I'm just staying in and trying to stay safe away from the psychopaths. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen.